Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaya Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtiprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with our discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, the activities of Maharaj Priyavrat, text number 35 on. So previously we studied King Priyavrat, then gave his daughter Urjaswati in marriage to Shukracharya, who begot in her a daughter named Devyani. Text 35. Nevam vida purushakar urukramasya punsam tad angri rajasa jitashanga gunanam chitram vidura vigataha sakrit adadita yannama dheya madhuna sujahati bandham. My dear king, a devotee who has taken shelter of the dust from the lotus feet of the Lord can transcend the influence of six material whips, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. And he can conquer the mind and five senses. However, this is not very wonderful for a pure devotee of the Lord, because when a person beyond the jurisdiction of the four castes, in other words, an untouchable, is immediately relieved of bondage to material existence, if he utters the holy name of the Lord even once. Wow. This is the power of the holy name of the Lord. Even once uttering the holy name, and that too, even if it's untouchable, Chandal, if even he chants, then he just becomes transcendental. He gets to the transcendental stage. Shukdev Goswami was speaking to Maharaj Parikshit about the activities of King Priyavrat, and since the king might have doubts about these wonderful, uncommon activities, Shukdev Goswami reassured him. My dear king, he said, don't be doubtful about the wonderful activities of Priyavrat. For a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything is possible, even because the Lord is also known as Urukram. Urukram is a name for Lord Vamandev, who performed the wonderful act of occupying the three worlds with three footsteps. So this pastime we will study later on. Lord Vamandev requested 3 paces of land from Maharaj Bali, and when Maharaj Bali agreed to grant them, the Lord immediately covered the entire world with 2 footsteps. So only 2 footsteps, he immediately covered the entire world, entire universe. So for his 3rd step, he placed his foot upon Bali Maharaj's head, because that's what was a request of Bali Maharaj. Shri Jayadev Goswami says, Chale asi vikramane bale madhubhuta vaman padanakh neera janita jana pavan keshavadhrita vamana rupa jay jagadisha hare. All glories to Lord Keshav, who assumed the form of a dwarf. O Lord of the universe, who takes away everything inauspicious for the devotees, O wonderful Vaman Dev, you tricked the great demon Bali Maharaj by your steps. The water that touched the nails of your lotus feet when you pierced through the covering of the universe purifies all living entities in the form of the river Ganges. So since the Lord can do these wonderful things, his devotees, because they get the mercy of the Lord, they get the potency of the Lord, so they can also do wonderful activities. Since the Supreme Lord is all powerful, he can do things that seem wonderful for a common man. Similarly, a devotee who has taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord can also do wonderful things, unimaginable to a common man, by the grace of the dust of those lotus feet. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore teaches us to take shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Ai Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram. O son of Maharaj Nanda, I am your eternal servant, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms with us that is real. That is humility. Humility is not just always being humble and inside our heart we think that, oh, see how great I am and whatever. Humility is to understand our constitutional position with respect to the Lord's position and understanding everything that I have is nothing but the mercy of the Lord. So if we take shelter of the dust of lotus feet of Lord, and by His mercy, even if He gives us some achievement, some power, and then we utilize those things in the service of the Lord only. Because of the material body, every living entity in material existence is always disturbed by Shadguna, 6 whips: hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, invalidity, and death. So, so these 6 whips, 6 guna. Whips means when somebody is beaten up by the whips and he is given punishment. So these are 6 punishments everybody goes through: hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, invalidity, and death. Furthermore, another Shadguna are the mind and the 5 sense organs. Not to speak of a sanctified devotee, even a chandal, an outcast, who's untouchable, is immediately freed from material bondage if he utters the holy name of the Lord even once. And it doesn't even say he has to utter the holy name of the Lord purely. Just utter, just say it, that's it. Sometimes caste Brahmins argue that unless one changes his body, he cannot be accepted as a Brahman. For since the present body is obtained as a result of past actions, one who has in the past acted as a Brahman takes birth in a Brahman family. Therefore, they contend without such a Brahminical body, one cannot be accepted as a Brahman. So Radha Prabhu sends a message that there is some breakdown in the transmission. I hope everybody else can hear it properly. Herein it is said, however, that even Vidur Vigat, a Chandal, a 5th class, untouchable, is freed if he utters the holy name even once. Being freed means that he immediately changes his body. Sanatana Goswami confirms this. This we have studied earlier also. When a person, even though Chandal, is initiated by a pure devotee into chanting the holy name of the Lord, his body changes as he follows the instructions of the spiritual master. Although one cannot see how his body has changed, we must accept on the grounds of the authoritative statements of the Shastras that he changes his body. This is to be understood without arguments. This verse clearly says, so jahati bandham. He gives up his material bondage. The body is a symbolic representation of material bondage according to one's karma. Although sometimes we cannot see the gross body changing, chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord immediately changes the subtle body. And because the subtle body changes, the living entity is immediately freed from material bondage. After all, the changes of the gross body are conducted by the subtle body. After the destruction of the gross body, the subtle body takes a living entity from his present gross body to another. In the subtle body, the mind is predominant, and therefore, if one's mind is always absorbed in remembering the activities of the lotus feet of the Lord, he is to be understood to have already changed. Goswami is bringing it to Parikshit Maharaj's attention. It's not very, uh, it's not very like incomprehensive that Priyavrat Maharaj did so many wonderful things. It's okay. These wonderful things can happen because he has taken shelter of the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And then further he says, even just imagine, just by chanting a holy name once, even a Chandal can become Brahman or even more, immediately relieved of bondage to material existence. And Prabhupada explains, by chanting of the holy names, our subtle body, including which the most prominent is the mind, it changes. Gradually, purely stitches, words, it starts growing inside. Although outwardly this gross body looks the way it is, but the spiritual body is growing. I mean, the subtle body is completely changing now. So, so the gross body also starts getting spiritualized, but it looks like a gross body. We still have to go through our whether it is karmic reactions or the reactions given by Krishna, that's up to him to decide. We still have to go through that. Just like some devotees got infected by coronavirus and then some of them left their body. Also, it looks like from here that their subtle body had already changed. So, what their next destination is, that's up to Krishna to do. Definitely, one thing for sure, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, so those who have left the body after high advancement in spiritual life, then they get to they take the birth in a Vaishnava family. Those who have achieved perfection, they go back to the spiritual world. But those who leave the body after making good progress, but not enough, then they get to take birth in a Vaishnava family where they start from the very beginning. And those who make progress, little progress, then that's not from that. One is nobody loses in perfect devotion of body. And what to speak of devotees who were constantly and continuously engaged in the service of the Lord. स एवं परिमित बल पराक्रम एकता तो देवर्षि चरणानुशयन शयन अनुविवाद while enjoying Maharaj Priyavrat again, once began into Narad and was actually on the path of Krishna consciousness. He had somehow become again entangled in material activities. Thus his mind now became restless and he began to speak in a spirit of renunciation. So Maharaj Priyavrat, although after ruling for such a long time, but now he was getting again into that, I was actually making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness. I got somehow involved material activities because Brahmaji asked me to. And now he was again talking about renunciation because he had performed his duties. He had made 7 islands, made his 7 sons in charge of the 7 islands, and now he could go back to his austerities. In Bhagavatam it is said, one who has forsaken his material attached for while in a zero stage, yet this number of being conscious. On the other hand, not fully we okay now? So although Priyavrat Maharaj was serving according to the instructions of Narad Muni meant for going back home, back to Godhead, he returned to material affairs at the request of his father and grandfather. In due course of time, however, his consciousness for serving Krishna reawakened by the grace of his spiritual master, Narad. So again, there are different viewpoints whether he forgot Krishna consciousness, whether he fell down in the material world, or it was just his humility he is saying so. There are different viewpoints here. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Shuchinam Shimatam Gehe, one who falls down from the process of bhakti yoga is again offered the opulence of the demigods. And after enjoying such material opulence, he is given a chance to take birth in a noble family of a pure Brahman or in a rich family, to be given the chance to revive his Krishna consciousness. This actually happened in the life of Priyavrat. He is a most glorious example of this truth. In due course of time, he no longer wanted to enjoy his material opulences and his wife, kingdom, and sons. Instead, he wanted to renounce them all. Therefore, after having described the material opulences of Maharaj Priyavrat, Shukdev Goswami in this verse describes his tendency for renunciation. So, so Maharaj Priyavrat was feeling that, oh, I've wasted or spent enough time ruling over the whole universe. Now I should retire. So this is because from when he was young, or when he went for his austerities, he got the mercy of Narad Muni, mercy in the teachings of Narad. And he had tasted the words of Shri indicate during the regulative principles. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Dandvat pranams tan anupatita. By immediately offering obeisances, dandvats, unto the spiritual master, and by immediately following his teachings, and by strictly following his teachings regularly. As long as he has to be under the influence of more nature, guna visarga. It is not that Maharaj Priyavrat was freed from the material influence because he possessed all material opulences. In this material world, both the poor man and the very rich man are under material influences, for both wealth and poverty are creations of the Lord. So the modes of material nature, material nature gives us from material enjoyment. So Maharaj Priyavrat, although he enjoyed the kingdom, and previously it was said he was very close to his wife, and Prabhupada explained how the wife is important to give a good impetus for the kshatriya, for the rulers. But now he was feeling renunciation again, because he was feeling he has done enough. And even if we understand, we think it was an obstacle on his path of devotion service, now he's coming back, or maybe he's just humble. He's saying, "Oh, I got distracted." Aho asadhanushchitam yadh abhiniveshito aham indriyar vidyarachit visham vishayand kupe tadlam lam mushya vanitaya vinodamrigam mam dhagigati garhayam chakara. The king thus began criticizing himself. Alas, how condemned I have become because of my sense gratification. I have now fallen into material enjoyment, which is exactly like a covered well. I have had enough. I'm not going to enjoy anymore. Just see how I have become like a dancing monkey in the hands of life. Because of this, I'm condemned. Wow. How many of us can say this if we are emperor of the whole universe? We might think, oh, it's because of bhakti, it's because of Krishna who has given me this. I have to do. But no, Maharaj, of wife. Understood from the behavior of Maharaj Priyavrata, which lying during the night and creating a charity. These activities are so great that modern Maharaj Priyavrata acted very wonderfully in the material field of activities, ruling his kingdom and dancing to the indications of his beautiful wife. He personally condemned himself. Civilization of materialistic advancement. Modern so-called scientists and other materialists are very satisfied because they can construct great bridges, roads, and machines. But such activities are nothing comparable to those of Maharaj Priyavrat. If Maharaj Priyavrat could condemn himself in spite of his wonderful activities, how condemned we are in our so-called advancement of material civilization. We can conclude that such advancement has nothing to do with the problems of the living entity entangled within this material world. So such advancement has nothing to do with the problems of the living entity entangled within this material. The problems are birth, old age, disease, death, or the six whips that we studied earlier, hunger, thirst, and the illusion, invalidity, death, and there was one more. But nobody is thinking about all these problems. Everybody is working so hard that if the government tells them you sit quietly at home, don't come out, you're in lockdown, everybody is dying to get out. Because until they get out, they cannot make money. Even if they die, they don't care. And if they cannot make money, they think how they're going to live. Okay, for some people it could be a problem, but for most, it's not a problem. But so much of illusion is there that they just have to get out. But don't understand, by getting out, we're getting more and more entangled within this material world, nothing else. From a spiritual point of view, a great kingdom, beautiful wife, and wonderful material activities are all impediments to spiritual advancement. Maharaj Priyavrat had served the great sage Narad sincerely. Therefore, even though he had accepted material opulences, he could not be deviated from his own task. He again became Krishna conscious, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. In devotional service, there is no loss or diminution, and even a great service, even a small service rendered in devotional life is sufficient to save one from the greatest danger. Such renunciation as Maharaj Priyavrat is possible only by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, when people are powerful, or when they have a beautiful wife, a beautiful home, and material popularity, they become more and more entangled. Priyavrat Maharaj, however, having been completely trained by the great sage Narad, revived his Krishna consciousness in spite of all impediments. So that is the beauty of bhakti. It just doesn't go away. Even if we have performed and later on we get sidetracked or distracted, sooner or later we'll come back. And that sooner or later could be in this lifetime or next lifetime, doesn't matter. But we will, one comes back. So the point is, whenever we have a chance, should perform bhakti more and more and more and more. That's all. Sometimes people comment, those who are not performing bhakti and those who are absorbed. Well, which is fine, yes, it is. But whatever we are doing, okay, maybe we're not fully absorbed in chanting, we're not fully absorbed in reading Bhagavatam or understanding Bhagavatam or anything. But something is always better than nothing. People criticize, comment. Oh, you go to temple every day. You go to temple. What exactly you're asking the Lord for? Why you're disturbing the Lord by going every day to the temple? How much money you want? How much power you want? How many positions you want? How many girlfriends you want? Why do you go to temple so much? Any and every act of devotion, service done stays with us. That's the only thing that will stay with us. Let people criticize. Sometimes they also say, "Oh, prasad means only this much. You should not eat more than that." That's only thing. Oh, prasad means you should always eat prasadam only, nothing else. So these are all just misconceptions in the minds of karmic people. But here it is clearly explained. There is no loss or diminution. We'll just pick up from wherever we are. Text 38. परदेवता प्रासाद अधिगतात्म प्रत्यवर्मेश प्रत्यवमर्शेनानु प्रवृत्तेभ्यः पुत्रेभ्यः इमां यथा दायं विभज्य भुक्त भोगां च महिषीं मृतकम् इव सह महाविभूति महापहाय स्वयं निहित निर्वेदो हृदि गृहीत हरिविहारानुभावो भगवतो नारदस्य पदवीं पुनरेवानुससार. By the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Maharaj Priyavrat reawakened to his senses. He divided all his earthly possessions among his obedient sons. He gave up everything, including his wife, with whom he had enjoyed so much sense gratification, and his great and opulent kingdom, and he completely renounced all attachment. His heart, having been cleansed, became a place of pastimes for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, he was able to return to the path of Krishna consciousness, spiritual life, and resume the position he had attained by the grace of the great saint Narad. So this is the preaching, powerful preaching of Narad Muni, as enunciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Shikshashtaka, Cheto Darpana Marjana. As soon as one's heart is cleansed, the blazing fire of material existence is immediately extinguished. Our hearts are meant for the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means that one should be fully Krishna conscious, thinking of Krishna as he himself advises, Manmana Bhav Madhbhakto. This should be our only business. One whose heart is not clean cannot think of the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord. But if one can once again place the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his heart, he very easily becomes qualified to renounce material attachment. Mayavadi philosophers, yogis, and jnanis try to give up this material world by simply saying, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. This world is false. There is no use of it. Let us take to Brahman. Such theoretical knowledge will not help us. If we believe that Brahman is a real truth, we have to place within our hearts the lotus feet of Shri Krishna, as Maharaj Ambarish did. One has to fix the lotus feet of the Lord within his heart. Then he gets the strength to be freed from material entanglement. So fixing and serving his devotees. Maharaj has beautiful wife as if she were Eve, and however attractive her bodily features. One is no longer interested in I'm sorry, today we are having some disturbance with the. Yeah. Sorry, there was some drop from my internet. I guess my phone is getting detached listening to Maharaj Priyavrat. So, so he could immediately give up his opulent kingdom because of the effect of devotional service. And this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, "O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. For one who desires to advance in spiritual life, attachment to material opulence and attachment to a beautiful wife are two great impediments. Such attachments are condemned even more than suicide. Therefore, anyone desiring to cross beyond material necessities must, by the grace of Krishna, be freed from attachment to women and money." When Maharaj Priyavrat became completely free from these attachments, he could again peacefully follow the principles instructed by the great sage Narad. So again, it's a free from attachment to women and money. But a devotee even goes further, has beautiful wife and lots of money he owns artificially. That's even better renunciation. तस्य निन्यायां ध्वंसप्तवारिधीन् Vinand Saptavaris. As Priyavrat displayed the darkness of night and the rims of his great chariot, he excavated 7 oceans. There are many excellent verses famous all over the world concerning the activities of Maharaj Priyavrat. He is so celebrated that his activities are compared to those of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes a sincere servant and devotee of the Lord is also called Bhagavan. Shri Narad is called Bhagavan, and Lord Shiva and Vyasadeva are also sometimes called Bhagavan. This designation, Bhagavan, is sometimes conferred upon a pure devotee by the grace of the Lord, so that he will be very highly esteemed. Maharaj Priyavrat was such a devotee. So, and that kind of devotee just doesn't add up that he got into attraction towards his wife and the power and the position. It was just his humility. Bhusansthanam kritam yena sarid gir ivanadibhi sima cha bhuta nirvritya dvipe vibhagashaha. To stop the quarreling among different people, Maharaj Priyavrat marked boundaries at rivers and at the edges of mountains and forests so that no one would trespass upon another's property. The example set by Maharaj Priyavrat in marking of different states is still followed. As indicated here, different classes of men are destined to live in different areas, and therefore the boundaries of various tracts of land, which are described here as islands, should be defined by different rivers, forests, and hills. This is also mentioned in relation to Maharaj Prithu, who was born from the dead body of his father by the manipulation of great sages. Was given a place in the forest because by nature they are thieves and rogues. As animals are given places in various forests and hills, men who are like animals are also destined. In nature, one is destined to live in in a particular situation according to one's karma. If men want to live in harmony and peace, they must take to Krishna consciousness. For they cannot achieve the high. Maharaj Priyavrat divided the surface of the globe into different islands so that each class of men live peacefully and not clash with the others. The modern idea of nationhood has gradually developed from the divisions made by Maharaj Priyavrat. So as Prabhupada mentioned, Maharaj Prithu also did the same thing. He did the first thing among themselves, they should live together, and then it will be peaceful. Bhaumam divyam manusham cha mahitvam karma yogajam yaschakre niryopamyam purusha anujan priyaha. As a great follower and devotee of the sage Narad, Maharaj Priyavrat considered hellish the opulences he had achieved by dint of fruitive activities and mystic power, whether in the lower or heavenly planetary systems or in human society. Srila Rupa Goswami has said that the position of a devotee is so super excellent that a devotee does not consider any material opulence worth having. There are different types of opulences on earth, in the heavenly planets, and even in the lower planetary system.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी फिर अटक रहा बहुत ज्यादा अटक रहा प्रभु जी
Known as Bhagavad Gita. Too much disturbance today.
प्रभु जी बहुत ज्यादा डिस्टरबेंस हो रहा है प्रभु जी कंसंट्रेट
I
करने
know.
स्विच ऑफ कर वीडियो प्रभु जी आप एक बार अपना वीडियो स्विच ऑफ कर दीजिए ना मे बी थोड़ा बैंडविड्थ मिल जाएगा
Prabhuji, I think you can continue the class. We will have the recording. You can always listen to the recording.
The first chapter anyway. One more sentence. So one must have a superior taste in spiritual life, then he can give up material opulence. Maharaj Priyavrat had already tasted spiritual bliss, and therefore he had no interest in any of the material achievements available in the lower, higher, or middle planetary systems. So as a great follower and devotee of sage Narad, Maharaj Priyavrat, he just renounced everything, and he just went for his tapasya again. So this is the power of devotional service. It just, the devotee achieves so much of taste in the spiritual practices that he just doesn't care for any material opulences. As long as he can engage everything in the service of Krishna, that's a different story. But for himself, he doesn't care. He doesn't need anything. And Prabhupada showed by his example. Prabhupada, when he came to America, he didn't have anything, and Krishna gave him so much of opulence, so much of money, so many followers, so many temples all over the world. He has never felt guidance. But Prabhupada was never, ever attached. Like in Detroit, they got a beautiful mansion for Prabhupada, or for the temple. The mansion it was built in 1920s. And at that time, it costed almost $1 million. At that time. And just imagine when they got it in 1970 and they paid cash for that. Amrish Prabhu and Lekha Shavanti Mataji, they paid cash together. And in that beautiful mansion, huge mansion, a beautiful temple hall, and very, very opulent room. That was the bedroom of the owner of the mansion. They kept it for Prabhupada. The devotees kept it for Prabhupada. They decorated it nicely for Prabhupada. And Prabhupada came. He stayed there for a while, but then he left. He left for his preaching work. He was not attached to the mansion or to stay there forever. Similarly, Bhaktivedanta Mainor in London, George Harrison of Beatles, he gave to Prabhupada. Oh, beautiful room Prabhupada had over there also. But when Gaur Govind Maharaj created that small hut in Bhubaneswar temple, and he made the hut by his own lotus hands. It's a mud hut. And Prabhupada stayed there, and Prabhupada himself said, I really like it here. This is beautiful. And Prabhupada started translating 10th canto over there. So that showed Prabhupada's renunciation. He was not at all attached. And he gave so many opulent gifts he would get from his disciples, from people who would come to see him. He just never kept anything. He would always give it away to different people. He was not at all attached. Anything that would help him in the service, like his recording or translating or anything else, that he would use. But otherwise, he would just give up everything. Everything he gave away. So a devotee is always not at all attached to any material things. And looking at material things, if we just analyze, people fight over land. So much of fight has gone on over the land. Any history book you pick up of any or every country in the world, innumerable wars, unlimited amount of killings have happened to capture land. This is my land. I'm going to rule over it for next whatever, unlimited years, but that never happens. How long? One can rule over. The land will always be there. Mother Earth is not going away. That's for sure. Land will always be there. Sometimes some group of people will come and rule over. Sometimes other people will come and rule over. Sometimes a third party will come and rule over. Fourth party will come. No, you all are illegals. I have the right to this land. Nobody has a right to that, any land. Savay Bhumi Gopal ki. Everything belongs to Krishna. And not only the land, anything attached to the land, the buildings, or anything else, rivers, minerals, everything doesn't belong to us. We didn't create that. But there is so much of fighting. So much of fighting has gone on and is still going on, and it will keep on going on. It's mind-boggling. And we'll just come and fight and then die, and then again we'll come, fight, and again will die. As right, I was saying that will we just crawling on that land. Instead, just use our whatever time we have. And here Maharaj Parikshit is listening. He knew he has 7 days. We are not even assured that we have 7 days left. So how much desperate we should be, how much concentrated we should be in performing a devotion service. So that's all we have to do, and just make more and more sincere progress on the path of bhakti. That's all. So we'll stop here. I apologize for all the disturbances today in the internet connection. I'll just try to reset my router after the class and see if it helps. So anyway, we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I think in future, it's coming 2-3 decades, or maybe 4 decades, 5 decades. People will not talk to anyone, like neighbors, relatives. I mean, you can see right now even, it's like the families are not together. They are living in isolations, and a lot of things are coming. And this Mataji called Jakmola, she has got Miss Jakmola, I think. I was just hearing one YouTube video of her where she was just explaining about how the Kali Yuga will proceed and what things will happen in Kali Yuga. Like the size of human beings will be so small, and there will be no grains to eat, and instead of rain, it will be like just thunderstorm and lightning and all those things. And this is what happening. I mean, even I realized yesterday I went to a very core, I mean, interior village area, and I like it because I just want to see the greenery, and I met some of my relatives. It's just different now. I mean, everybody is in isolation. They are just they want to be within themselves. I don't know why, but it could be an effect of Kali Yuga. And what I analyzed that in 2, 3, 4 decades, this is going to happen, and the only supportive, the tool will be this Krishna consciousness or bhakti. Be it any bhakti, if you're doing Sri Ram bhakti or Krishna bhakti, but this would be the main tool going forward. Otherwise, it's so uneasy to be in this material world.
Yeah.
What would you say, Prabhuji?
But this symptoms of Kali Yuga that you're mentioning, that will happen towards the end of Kali Yuga. We still have a long time to go.
Yeah,
but
that is also
the
very scary.
things are getting bad, and they're not going to get any better. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And Mataji was telling in that video, like only 5,000 years passed. And
Yeah.
she mentioned, like, I think it just started from that Mahabharata Yudh. It's just 5,000 years where we are, a lot of cows are slaughtered. Uh, Girls are, like all bad things are happening across the country. Small girls, like 1, 2 years, 5 years, like that. What we can hear, I mean, we can read it in the newspaper, on the news channels, and it's all happening, and it's just exactly the way it is in the, in this, how the Kali Yuga is going to proceed. Exactly
Yep.
the same way.
So we have to become more and more serious about our bhakti.
Absolutely, Prabhuji.
And we have to preach more also. We have to bring more people on the path of bhakti.
Very true. Yeah.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
Hare Krishna Mata.
प्रभु जी, विनय प्रभु जी जो बोल रहे हैं ना, उसकी कंटिन्यूएशन में मैं एक बात बताती हूँ आपको। अगर हम किसी को थोड़ा कुछ बताना चाहते हो और बताना शुरू करते हो ना, वो एक बार तो आपकी सुन लेता है, सेकंड टाइम ट्राई टू अवॉइड यू ओनली।
बिल्कुल। उस साइड
अरे
से
बाबा
पास
रे,
हो
ये फिर
जाएगा।
से, आई नो, वो कहता है अरे बाबा ये फिर शुरू ना हो जाए, छोड़ो। रहने दो, इसको फोन ही मत करो।
तो इसलिए प्रसाद खिलाओ,
खिलाना, लोग बात ही नहीं सुनना
मीठा
चाहते।
कुछ अच्छा। तो कुछ मीठा बना के ले जाओ, दे दो, भाई ये बनाया कुछ अच्छा आपके लिए।
प्रभु जी, उसमें भी लोग पता है बड़ा डाउट करने लगते हैं, पता नहीं कोई मिक्स करके ना लेके आ गई हो, कुछ ना हो। मैं कहा यार, आजकल ना बहुत मुश्किल है प्रभु जी, टीचिंग भी बहुत मुश्किल है, और किसी को समझाना तो भूल जाओ, कुछ कह ही नहीं सकते किसी को प्रभु जी। आप, बहुत मुश्किल है, किसी को भी आप कुछ अच्छी सलाह दो तो वो आपकी एंटी हो जाते हैं।
कोई नहीं, we
And
keep trying. Results are
हाँ,
not in our hands. We just have to try.
जस्ट मतलब I'm giving you this thing
I
कि
know,
मेरा
I
एक्सपीरियंस
know.
तो ये है कि लोग बिल्कुल अवॉइड ही करना शुरू कर देते हैं आपको।
I know.
and Prabhu ji, there is a very I would say बहुत बड़ा tool this is, a माध्यम, I would say, like a medium, that's alcohol. I have seen everywhere. It's maybe 2 decades back it was not there. Shops are there, like it's just spreading in small villages also, like anything. तो ये चीजें बढ़ते जा रही है, मतलब it's just spreading all over. People are getting
Yeah,
imbalanced.
alcohol, the people are crazy about alcohol. They're
Yeah.
just crazy. खाने को मिले ना मिले, पीने को मिलना चाहिए।
बिल्कुल।
अब बराबर का मुकाबला है प्रभु जी,
Anyway.
लेडीज में और जेंट्स में।
Yeah, I know, I know.
कोई पीछे नहीं रहना
I recall
चाहता।
माता जी का एक previous, हाँ माता जी आपने बताया था ना एक बार पास्ट में, कोई नेबर में कोई है, so
हाँ
that
हाँ
like in kids
हाँ
and all,
हाँ,
everybody.
ओ यस 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 यस। उसका तो मैंने ये भी सुना था कि वो ट्यूसडे को बेचारा बेटा बोल रहे कि माँ आज ट्यूसडे हो गई थी, शट अप, नो ट्यूसडे वेडनेसडे, लेट्स हैव इट। तो नेक्स्ट डे उनकी डॉटर इन लॉ ने मुझे बताया, शी इज फ्रॉम अ गुड फैमिली एंड शी डजंट गेट इनटू ऑल दिस, सो देन शी टोल्ड मी, शी सेड दिस इज व्हाट हैपेंस इन माय हाउस। क्या कर सकते हैं भाई।
कोई नहीं, we keep on trying our thing. Krishna is more powerful than Maya. I mean, even if we try, because just look at Prabhupada, how many people he met, how many lectures he gave. Still, not everybody who listened to his lecture became devotee. It's not that everybody became devotee. So that's okay. We keep on trying. Sooner or later, it will happen.
प्रभु जी, इसका मतलब यस यही है ना कि हम वी हैव टू ट्राई एंड कीप ट्राइंग टू प्लांट दी, ना क्या बोलते हैं, बीज को बोते रहो।
Yep. I give you an example.
Exactly.
There was a ashram, and Guruji and one disciple of Guruji was a very weak disciple, and everybody used to make fun of him. He is not good for anything. He has no strength. So Guruji once gave him a small hammer, and there was a big rock. Guruji told him, "Go break that rock with this hammer." Everybody was laughing. What kind of instruction or order is that? But the disciple said, "Well, Guruji has told me I have to go do it." So he went. The whole day he was banging the hammer on the rock. Obviously nothing happened. But Guruji said, "No, you keep on doing it." So he kept on doing it. Day after day, that's all his service was, keep on banging the hammer on the rock. After a few months of banging, he saw a little crack on the surface of the rock. So he was very happy. He went to the Guruji. Guruji, see, a little crack has happened. Guruji said, "No, it didn't happen today. It happened first day when you hit the hammer in the rock. It happened inside. The crack happened. Today it has showed up on the surface." So same thing, when we preach, we are trying to do our service. So something is happening in the heart. When it comes up to the surface, we don't know. In the deep inside, something has happened. Definitely it has happened. So we just keep on hammering. That's all.
Very well explained, Prabhuji. Very well explained.
Because we know we are trying to please Krishna and Prabhupada. That's all. That's most important.
Prabhuji, same thing. Karm karo, phal ki ichha mat karo.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly true in bhakti process. Because in this process, we know Krishna is pleased. Whether the results are there or not, we don't care. It's all in the hands of Krishna. When Krishna is happy, we are happy. Okay, so I guess we can stop here. You all have a wonderful and safe day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you, Prabhuji. Jai Shri
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Jai
Jai
Srila
Srila
Prabhupada.
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.